Hello, welcome to the help video for homework number 6, I believe. This is the unit 00 review. I apologize, the font at the top of the page, the worksheet that I gave you, the heading, looks like two O's and not zeros, but that's what it is. Anyways, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing that I did for mine was to take these givens, the L, M, N, and P, and I converted all those. The easiest one is the square root of 121. That is 11. So hopefully you know your perfect squares or you're learning them and getting good at it, and that's an easy one. L, 2/5. That is 0.4. Okay. N, the square root of 24. Now that is not a perfect square. So I'm going to use my calculator. Remember, hit the blue button second, and then the X to the second power button, and you'll see just like I have on my screen. And I'm going to type in 24 and hit enter. Now I'm not going to write all of that. I'm just going to put a few of those numbers so we can get an idea of what we have, and then so I'm going to write down 4 decimal point 897, and then I'll just put ... All right, so you can decide where to stop. Maybe you go 898 ... or whatever. But be careful, it is not a repeating pattern. It is an irrational number. And the square root of 8, again, is not a perfect square. Second, X to the second power button, 8. And you have your answer there. So I'm going to write that one. And I have 2.8284 ... Okay. Now, my next step was to go ahead and start adding them and then answer this question: which expression results in a rational number? So remember, there's a few ways you can test for this. I'll show you quickly one of those ways, but one thing that I did, so I took the first one, and adding 11 and 0.4 is actually really simple, and you end up with 11.4, which seems like, hey, that's a rational number. Remember, you can always use your graphing calculator. You can hit math, enter, enter. And if it turns it into a fraction, even a fraction with the numerator greater than the denominator, then that tells you it's a rational number. So this one seems to be the answer. But I'm going to just double check the other ones. Excuse me. When I take the next one, I get 11 plus the square root of 24, which is 15.8987 or 89897. And it keeps on going, so ... If I add the square root of 24 and the square root of 8, I get 7.7274. And then if I add the last one, I get this. Oh, don't forget the ... Very important that if you have any questions that you're required to show the value, that you put the ... Unless it tells you to round it to a certain spot, which it doesn't. Okay. So I'm going to do one of these on the calculator, on the graphing calculator, and just prove that it's irrational, and then I'm going to stop. So I'm going to take the second one, which is 11 plus the square root of 24. And that one was the 15.8987949, all that stuff. Now I'm going to do math, enter, enter. And it doesn't convert it to a fraction. Why? It can't. It is not a rational number. So The correct answer here is A. All right. I'm going to pause the recording, and I'll see you at the next problem. Okay, the next problem, Mr. Decker asked his class, is the sum of 2/3 and the square root of 25 rational or irrational? Amanda answered that the sum, I should say the sum, there's a typo there, would be irrational. State whether Amanda is correct or incorrect. Justify your reasoning. Okay, so I'm actually going to do this math here. So I got 2/3 plus the square root of 25. 25 is a perfect square, so I get 2/3 plus 5. Now, if you use your graphing calculator for this, you will get an answer that looks like this, which some people are repeating 6. Actually, your graphing calculator does us a disservice, and it rounds the last 6 to a 7. But if you do that or convert it, it can be converted to a fraction. And that fraction is, I believe it's 17/3, which is also 5 2/3. Okay. But the fact is, it can be converted to a fraction, meaning it is a rational number. So Amanda said it's irrational. So Amanda is incorrect. So it is not C or D. And then choice A is the correct one. Now, your copy might be one of the ones I handed out in math that has a typo. Unfortunately, I think these all say rational. And so if you picked A or B, I think you would be correct because they're basically identical answers. And that is it for question 2. I'm going to pause the recording and meet you at question 3. Okay, hopefully this is an easy one for you. 50 plus x equals 99. Well, you can either solve it or maybe some of you just know. Well, okay, that means x is 49. Now we just decide which type of number that x is or isn't. And the one that it isn't is the answer because we're looking for no solution. Okay, so 49, is 49 an integer? Yes, it is. 49, is that an irrational number? No, it is not. So it looks like B is our answer, but let's just double check. C, whole number? Nope. It is a whole number, and it is also a rational number. So all of these are yes. B is the only one that is no. So that means it is B. All right, I'm going to pause the recording and meet you at question 4. Okay, here we are. Between which two whole numbers does the value of the square root of 110 lie? Justify your answer. Or reasoning, sorry. So some of you probably are going to go to your graphing calculator and you're going to plug in 110 and get an answer. 10.4880. Okay, good. So now, next step is to say, okay, what two numbers is that between? For me, it's pretty obvious. Square root of 110 is between the whole numbers 10 and 11. Why? So this is justifying the reasoning. If you stop right here on the quiz or on this, you've only done part of it. You need to justify your reasoning. This is the justify part. The square root of 110 is about 10.4880, and it just keeps on going. So I'm going to do my ... which is greater than 10, but less than 11. Which is greater than 10, but less than 11. And you can stop there if you like. Some people may basically say the same thing, but instead of focusing on the square root of them, you might talk about Well, the perfect square of 10 is 100, and the perfect square of 11 is 121. And that this number 110 here, because the square root of 121 is 11, square root of 10, that 110 is in between 100 and 121. Okay, I'm using an inequality here to show it. All right, that's it for question 4. I'm going to pause the recording and meet you at question 5. Okay, the final problem. Find the positive value of x that makes the equation true, and then verify your solution. So the first thing you're going to do is solve for x, and then you're going to do the check. Just like in the previous problem, if you only do one part of that, you will not get full credit, okay? So make sure you don't lose points. Some of you have done an awesome job solving these problems, 4 and 5. Don't cheat yourself out of getting a really good score on this when you know all you need to do is one extra step at the end. So for this, I'm going to do the distributive property, and I get 4y plus 64. Okay, now I'm going to do my next step here of subtracting 4y, because I recognize I can cancel something out or zero something out on both sides of my equation. And I'm left with y squared equals 64. Remember, to undo squaring something, you take the square roots. Some of you won't even need to do that because you'll look at it, oh, square root of 64 is 8, and you will be good. Now, to do the check, find some space, check, and do ESS. If I don't see a substitution in an actual calculation, that is not doing the check. So y squared plus 4y equals 2 parentheses 2y plus 32. Now I substitute my value for y in. 8 squared plus 4 times 8 equals 2 times 8 plus 32. Now solve it. 64 plus 32. There's the bell. Hope you're in class. 2 times 16 plus 32. Almost done. 96 equals, sorry, my handwriting's getting a little sloppy. 2 times 48. 96 equals 96. It is a perfect check. You have now verified your solution works. Hope this helps. If you got any questions, bring them to algebra. And that's it for this video. I'll see you in class.